Hey everyone, it's Anita Foster with the Arlington ISD. Today we're going to introduce you to a new segment called Tough Talk on school safety. We know that after Uvalde, many of our parents and our staff had a lot of questions about Arlington ISD's measures that we take to make sure our schools are safe and secure. We brought a panel of experts with us today that can help walk us through some of the action steps we've taken in the past and some that we'll take for the upcoming school year. I'll have each of you introduce yourself and tell us what your role is in the district.
Thank you, Anita. I'm Marcelo Cavazos, Arlington ISD Superintendent, and thank you for this opportunity. It's a very timely topic, but I will also say that it's something that we deal with all the time. This is not a new conversation for us, but thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
I'm David Stevens. I'm the Director of Security for the district.
Michael Hill, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Administration with the district.
I'm Jade Taylor, the School Violence Prevention Program Coordinator with the Arlington Police Department.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. It is a tough talk on school safety. We know there are many concerns that people have, especially as we get ready to go back to school here on August the 15th. Dr. Cavazos, we have nearly 60,000 students, a staff of around 8,500 people. School safety must be a topic that keeps you up at night.
Absolutely, Anita. It's paramount for us. Keeping everyone safe in our buildings and our facilities is top priority. And that's why we have a team, a unified team, that are represented here today to discuss the safety measures. But I'll say again, for us, this is something that we continually work on and have worked on for a number of years. And so it is the biggest priority that we have is school safety for our students and our staff, and a lot of measures that we're taking to ensure that.
After Uvalde, which was just a couple of days before we actually finished our school year last year, that event occurred and it generated a lot of questions from our parents, from the community, and from our staff on how we are keeping everyone safe. So what I did was I triaged those most commonly asked questions so that we could address them today before we kick off our school year here this year on August 15th. David, I want to start with you because one of the questions we got the most was about metal detectors. Why don't we have them at every campus every day?
Well, metal detectors are a part of our layered security plan throughout the district. We do utilize them at our secondary campuses and have them available anytime we need them. We can deploy those at elementary. The main thing is it's a logistical issue. Our elementaries tend to be more secure just in the design and the structure because the students are confined more into the building. And so trying to get the students through metal detector, the technology in today's world is not quite what we need it to be able to deploy those all the time. So there is technology that has advanced. We've been monitoring, we've been testing. We actually did a testing right here in this facility earlier this summer. And so we're looking into that to see if we can, and if it's feasible, be able to deploy them that way.
Now you guys use a strategy with, I think you call it the random detection. What is that? How does that work?
So we have different types of checks. So we have a door check where we meet the students or the visitors at the door. We have the random metal checks where we wait till the students get here and then we randomly select classrooms and we pull students out. So this way they don't know that we're going to do this. It's truly random and it's surprising for anybody that may try to bring something into our facility. It gives us the advantage.
Okay. Dr. Hill, one of the questions that we get a lot from parents is about our school resource officers and where they're allocated. So parents know that we've got them at some schools, but they ask, why not at all schools, in particular elementaries?
And so we do have school resource officers as a partnership with Arlington Police Department at our secondary schools. We do have a response by close patrol of other non-SROs that are just working their regular beats, constantly patrolling the elementary schools. And again, it's about the response time. We can get a response from our local AISD security and or the APD by calling 911. And so that's our strategy at this time to try to make sure that we're covering our elementary schools.
And Dr. Hill, this next question goes to you as well. And parents asked about backpacks. We've heard a lot of districts are preparing to use the clear backpacks. Is that a strategy Arlington is considering? And
so we haven't specifically spoken about the clear backpack at the district level. However, that is one level. As we talk about school safety, it's one layer, and that's an opportunity that's available for campuses if they so choose to take advantage of it.
Okay, very good. Now, Jade, you're a member of the Arlington Police Department, and you mentioned in your intro that you work in the school, so you're embedded in the Arlington ISD. Tell us a little bit about that position. It's very unique here.
Yes, so I'm on the multidisciplinary threat assessment team, which oversees the behavioral threat assessment process for Arlington ISD. And it's a collaboration with the Arlington Police Department. And so within that process, our goal is truly community collaboration to help interventions and help students succeed on not escalating on that pathway to violence.
Well, tell us what a typical case might look like for you, or give us some examples of the types of things that you deal with along the way. And I think you guys always say your goal is intervention.
Right, absolutely. Intervention is key. So behavioral threat assessment is not a punitive action or process. It's an assessment tool that's standardized, it's evidence-based to identify if a student might pose a threat of harm to the school or to others, and identifying interventions that would be best to intervene on that process in that escalation. We want to help them de-escalate, resolve that grievance, and it also might encompass family support. So if the family is needing some community resources, then we're able to provide those resources within the school, but then also within the community.
And Dr. Cavazos, you put a lot of your time and effort and a lot of staff time behind getting a multidisciplinary threat assessment team to the Arlington ISD. Why was that so important?
That's right, Anita, because we know that in many, many cases, these issues with violence and threats appear. And they appear, people see it, they notice it, there's social media postings or writings and things like that. And we want to intervene early in that whole process, because we know that with the right team, as just described right now, with the right team, we can intervene in a way that helps prevent a lot of these cases and prevents behavior from getting out of control. And we know that trained professionals that can intervene and have the knowledge and the skill set to do that, do it very effectively. And we've seen that over and over again. And I just commend the threat assessment team. And it's operable at every campus, and it's centralized in a way that these are formal assessments of any threats against our school from any one of our students.
And Jade, your boots on the ground every day with the threat assessment team. What are some of the ways that you know this has been successful?
We've seen a lot of success in when you see a student who is able to overcome that grievance or overcome, the concern that they might have been expressing at the time, and they're able to have that support from within the school, but also from within the community. So they might be receiving those social emotional learning supports or community resources, and so we're able to actually intervene and help them be successful.
One thing that I hear you talk about a lot, and it always is just so positive when I hear you guys talk about this, is how you also help the family. You realize in some cases, if you can help the family member, it will in turn help the student.
Sometimes when we contact parents to follow up with them as well, because we want this to also be a family approach, the parents have insight into the situation and knowledge of what's going on with their student, and so we want to be able to help them, and they might express concerns for some behaviors or things that they're seeing at home, and so if we're able to access community resources to help them, then that's able to help that family function.
I think it's just great. So I know it's hard to prove theories, it's hard to prove that conversations help, but we know they do because of the threat assessment team. So we appreciate all that you guys do.
And Anita, I think it's also important to note that teachers can report to this threat assessment team, parents can, administrators, community can as well, because our goal really is to intervene and provide supports where students need them to really change this behavior or change this path of behavior. And I think that's really important.
Very good. Now let's get back to some more of our parent questions. David Stevens, we're going to come to you next. We got quite a few questions asking why we don't allow teachers to be armed in the classroom.
Well, there's several reasons, Anita. One of the main things is the training that's involved. My background prior to coming to the district is law enforcement, so I completely understand what it takes to train somebody, to arm somebody. There's a lot of logistical issues. Where do you store the weapon? Where do you keep the ammunition? How do you keep it safe? How do you keep the people around the person safe? So there's a lot of good questions, and it sounds easy on the surface, but there's a lot of in-depth that we need to make sure that we are doing everything possible to keep our students, staff, and visitors safe. And I'm not sure that that is the answer that we need. And that's even coming with my law enforcement partners with whom I used to work and still continue to work with.
And one of the things that as educators we think about is the amount of time that training takes the teacher out of the classroom. Is that a concern for you, Dr. Cavazos?
But I think the overarching concern is that it does require a level of specialization and a level of continued specialization across a large amount of time, which is what people like David Stevens and other law enforcement professionals have an advantage with. And I think our focus needs to be teaching and learning with the supports and the tools that we're describing to ensure a safe environment for everyone. And I agree with Mr. Stevens when he says that this tool may not be the best tool right now for us or for schools, simply because we have a relationship and a response with Arlington Police Department that are trained professionals over time and continue to get really the best tactical training that there is. And we've had a lot of conversation with Arlington Police Department and other partners that we have, and they're just exceptional. And they're prepared, and they work seamlessly with us, and that's what we depend on.
Okay. Dr. Hill, we're going to come back to you. We had a number of questions from parents about the safety of schools as it pertains to them being voting locations. And we know that we have opened our buildings, a lot of our school buildings, many times over many years, so that people in our community can vote. If it's not safe, why would we do that?
Well, and that's a fair question. The voting polling locations comes from the Secretary of State. It's actually mandated that school districts do that. That being said, anytime we open our sites as polling locations, we do take extra security measures to make sure that the students are cordoned off from the actual polling site and that there's close patrol with both APD and our AISD security at those locations. And so that's our strategy, if you will, or one of those layers of security to try to address safety during that time.
Okay, thank you for that. And back to you again, Dr. Hill. This is about cell phones. A lot of parents asked why we permit kids to have those cell phones in schools. There are a lot of threats we know that come from the use of cell phones, but if we just tell students you can't have your cell phone, can't that help?
Well, you would think that may be able to help, but it may also cut off a good source of information that we're constantly receiving from students. Again, and I see something, say something with all of the things that are going on in social media. Our students are our voices out there, they're our ears and their eyes, and they're bringing this information to us because of what they see on their cell phone. And so that's actually a benefit to us at this point.
Very good. David, I'm going to come back to you with a question about the vestibules at elementary schools. The 2014 bond made those possible. So we were able to increase our security, our technology at the entrance, but a lot of parents say when they go pick their kids up, they just see people being buzzed through the door. So what good is the security vestibule?
You know, our vestibules are actually the second layer to our security. We talked about layered security earlier. The first is that camera buzzer system. That's an opportunity for our staff to be able to assess someone before they come in. You know, in our training with our principals, assistant principals, even over the summer, and it's a continual process where we try to tell them that even though you get an opportunity to build relationships, still engage them at the front door. So this is their opportunity to be able to just to say hi, to get, you know, a check of what they're like today, even if you know who that person is, but especially for our visitors that you may not know. And so once they get buzzed in, they come into the vestibule, and that's supposed to be secured. And so once they're there, it gives them a quick opportunity to be able to make sure, you know, that their body language isn't, you know, showing something aggressive, that they're not carrying any kind of weapons or have anything that's immediately visible. And so it is a great opportunity for our staff to be able to utilize, to be able to assess people before they even get into our building.
It's a good reminder, I think, for all of us to have our awareness about this every time we're going to one of our schools. I know I've been in this situation where I've been on a campus, I'm going through the door and there's someone right behind me, and I always feel so awkward just not letting that person in. What would you say to those of us that can help us with a quick sentence that we can deliver and when we're in that awkward situation? And
it is very awkward. I've been in it myself, and so I get it. But what we ask is that, you know, the public, because everybody plays a role in safety, to include the visitors that come on campus. So if you would, be patient. We only ask that one person or one family at a time actually try to enter into the vestibule. This way we don't get people just, you know, kind of open door. We're able to follow our process. So we ask the public to help us and understand and be a little bit patient, because we are really wanting to make sure we're as secure as possible.
That's definitely a good reminder for all of us that travel about our schools. Dr. Cavazos, we know that the safety of our schools is of great concern to our parents, our staff, our students that attend. What do you say to those who want a 100% guarantee on safety?
Yeah, Anita, so we know that there's not a 100% guarantee. That's not realistic. But what we do know is that what we've described today are a number of tools and strategies, and those that we can't discuss publicly, that we're doing to have safe and secure facilities and learning environments for our students. We know that it takes a combination of all of us, people in the community, visitors, students, staff, parents, because it is really a culture that we create. Aside from the habits, which are very important, to the doors, the buzzing in, metal detector, random checks, all the things we've talked about. But it's a culture of awareness, of making sure that people are comfortable telling us or telling an administrator or telling a teacher when they perceive a threat. And I'll just tell you, I'm proud of Arlington and our community, because many of the cases that we deal with is because somebody told us. Would we have eventually seen it on social media and all that? Perhaps. But somebody immediately is telling us, whether it's a student telling a teacher, telling the principal, telling an assistant principal or a counselor, a parent reporting. And I think all of the panelists here, self included, have experience with all types of times in the evening or weekends when these threats come in, that we quickly try to mitigate with the tools that we've described. So it's really a cohesive effort to make our campuses and our facilities as safe as possible so students can learn fundamentally.
All right, now we're going to turn our tables a little bit from our discussion about what we've done in schools to what parents can do to make sure their kids and our schools are as safe as possible. Dr. Cavazos, what would one tip you have be?
Yeah, so open communication with your children so that they feel very comfortable in sharing when they feel that there's a threat, when then they feel that there's something imminent to occur, when they see something on social media, that they are very comfortable sharing that with the parents. But that communication is two-way. That's encouraged and fostered. And it doesn't always have to be, do you feel threatened at your school? It can be, how was your day at school? Any outbursts that you're concerned about? Do you feel comfortable in your classrooms, in your hallways, in your cafeteria, etc.? So that we get that information, but it starts with that open communication between parent and child.
Excellent. David Stevens?
I would say check on your student. Check on their mental health, their well-being. Check on, their social media sites. You have the right as a parent to look into that. Check into that. Check into their communication on text. Check into the students that they're hanging around or other people they're hanging around. Check into everything that they do. You are responsible as a parent for their actions and stuff, and so we want you to get engaged and get involved and just check into what they're doing.
Dr. Hill?
So I think it goes on to continue to support that same message of parents being involved in what the kids are doing and understanding. And then just let us know, partner with us. Again, school safety, it's not just an AISD thing, it's not just a community thing. We're in this together, and so we need to hear from you, we need to work with you as we address these issues.
And Jade?
And I would continue to say, have parents, build those relationships with their staff members on their campus, with their administrators, their counselors. And if you need help or need resources, don't hesitate to reach out, because we're here to help.
And let's take that same question and apply it to our staff. As we mentioned in the beginning, we have around 8,500 staff people. I mean, there are cities all around us that are smaller than that. So we've got a huge workforce. Dr. Cavazos, what would you tell staff members to do to help with safety?
Yeah, well, to build relationships with the people they work with or the people that they instruct, in the case of teachers and principals and others. Build those relationships so that you can assess and understand if something is going wrong, if something doesn't feel right. Build those relationships so that you can be the trusted person that somebody goes to if something is not working well or if some threat is imminent, that you're that trusted person. Build those relationships with that aspiration.
David?
Yes, and when it comes to security, practice with purpose. We do these drills on a very regular basis, and so we ask that the staff practice with purpose. Everything you do needs to be calculated. You need to plan ahead. In law enforcement, we call them what-if games. What if? What if this happens? What am I going to do? What if that happens? What am I going to do? So you need to be prepared. And if you're not mentally prepared, you know, you're no telling what your response is going to be. There's only 3 responses: fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is not an option for us. The public can trust that we are going to engage and defend and support our students in times of crisis. And so we must train our brain and be engaged at all times.
Good tip.
I would just take that one step farther, or even emphasize the staff, the need for the staff to take the drills very seriously. The students are going to take after, they're going to follow the path of the leader or the teacher in the classroom. And so when the teachers take the drills serious and they make school safety a priority, the students will follow that same suit. So staff, that would be my recommendation.
And Jade?
And my recommendation for staff would be to know who your threat assessment team members are on your campus, and if you have a concern, to report it immediately.
Well, I want to thank you all for your dedication, your commitment, the many hours that you spend around the clock that nobody ever knows about, making sure that we're as safe as possible. And that's all of us, our students, our staff, all of our visitors, our parents. We have many people that come and go from campuses, and we know we have a team that works really hard to keep us all safe. So thank you for that. I want to thank you all too for joining us on this first segment of Tough Talk on school safety. We have a new resource for families on our website. You can go to AISD.net and look at the new security tracker. We've got new terminology, we've got a notification chart, definitions to help you as a family know that if an emergency occurs on your child's campus, that we have information we'll share with you there. So take a look at that now, be prepared, and we'll do the same. Thank you again for joining us on Tough Talk.